If you want to be more intelligent and get a lot more return on your investment, you're better to adhere to the 2 to 3 day a week or 2 to 3 muscle group a week per week frequency, where you're training every muscle at least 2 to 3 times a week and spreading that volume over whatever days you have to play with. All right, that's enough of that. All right, guys, welcome back to another video with myself, Alex from Fearless Training, your physique coach, or something, or rather along those lines. Thank you for everyone who's subscribed as of recent. I really appreciate the consistent support. And if you are watching this video, once again, I will ask, if you're watching and not subscribed, if you like my videos, please subscribe. It really does help the channel grow, and I'm trying to reach more people and ultimately just help as many people within the realms of training, nutrition, and lifestyle. Today, we're talking about my training split. I've had a lot of questions as of late as to what I'm doing with my training, but I thought I'd make it a little bit more educational for you, the watcher, and really talk about what you guys can do to improve your training. So I'll give you a run of what I'm doing. Disclaimer, don't just copy it, but I'll talk about some of the methodologies behind it that you can perhaps take out, then possibly apply or even rearrange for your own training. So first things first, I am currently doing a 5-day split. Now, there is no magic formulas as always. This is all based on structure, this is based on science, and therefore I'm building it around my capabilities, my skill sets, my goals, and the like. 5 days for me is working at the moment as someone who works in the industry, as someone who has more time. I don't have a family, I have very little commitments based around other than my clients and obviously my immediate family members. So I'm able to train a little bit more. I'm also on the younger side of life, so I can really push my training at this point and try and accumulate as much muscle mass as possible naturally and get as close to my genetic potential, so I can do that now and then obviously enjoy that a little bit later on, rather than obviously doing these 6-day or mad splits where I'm just doing too much and I'm not enjoying it. And sometimes doing more isn't always best. And I see this a lot with the younger folk training where they just do so much, and it is unwarranted and unnecessary. So as always, guys, train smarter before you train harder and understand the hierarchy of training. And the first one really comes down to adherence, meaning what split can you adhere to on a weekly basis consistently that you can enjoy and progress with. If it's 3 days, it's 3 days. You can still make some very good gains on 3 days. Hell, if you had to, you could do it over 2. Generally 3 minimum effective dose, 5 to 6 on the maximum end. However, you can spread your volume very differently across those days. So what my training looks like is I have a day one. Now I try not to label these Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, etc. because if I do need to shift a day, I can. It's ultimately trying to get 5 training days into 7. And if I miss one, so be it. Then I can start again on that next day, or I can just forget about it because that's that flexible element. But to give you guys an idea, so I have started with, on a Monday, I'm doing a leg day. On a Tuesday, I'm doing a push. On a Wednesday, I'm doing a pull. On a Thursday, I'm having a rest day. On Friday is a full lower day again. And on Saturday is a full upper body day. Now, to give you a few nuances around that, my first leg day is more based around the posterior chain at this point in time. And I'm gonna throw some clips in here, purely because that's one of my points of improvement, that and calves, so there's a little bit more volume pushed into those areas through exercise selection, through rep ranges, through sets, through RPE, and through volume. And I'm not gonna go into all of these little details because I've talked about them in other videos, and I'm gonna continue to make videos on each specific point. The Tuesday, I go to a push day. I want to prioritize also my chest development. That is something that I've been working on as of late, which has been going really well. And I want to make sure I continue on that trend. I've then got my pull day. Now I've put that away from my lower body day and I've split it up with the push in between to reduce any lower back tension and stress. Now, side note, and I've talked about this on prior videos, I have inadvertently been not avoiding, but taking out a lot of the barbell movements that I would normally do deadlift and squat wise, because I had an annular tear in my C5, which has now what seems to be recovered. I don't know if it's fully recovered, but I'm taking it cautious and I'm really going to focus on the more bodybuilding-esque movements. I love the squat, bench, and deadlift. I have just started benching again, but I'm going to be cautious with the squat and deadlift, and I'm probably going to use them as skill-based movements when I reintroduce them, in terms of I'm going to do warm-up sets to heavy singles on a moderate or with a moderate approach to see first how it feels, and also to manage my fatigue. I have found by not doing these big barbell movements that I am able to recover a lot faster. My body, my joints, my ligaments feel a lot better, and I'm still able to push more volume and maintain a lot of size throughout my body. So obviously we know that they're not necessary. They're a great idea, but we can still get those movement patterns throughout machines and other free weight exercises too. So again, the clips will be running in the background so you can kind of see a little bit of how this looks, but I'm going to break down each of these days into one video so you can get an idea exactly what I'm doing, and I'm going to talk about why in a little bit more depth. So again, the push day is bespoke to more chest. I've still got the shoulders and the triceps in there, but it is more bespoke to my points of improvement. So you could design something which is a bit more specific to your points of improvement. So say you've got lagging triceps or you've got lagging shoulders, or it might be your back. You might put that at the start of the week. Same with the legs. You've also noticed that I've got a 2 to 3 times a week frequency on all muscle groups. Something to consider, which a lot of people don't, is the crossover as well. So for example, on the leg day, when I'm doing some movement patterns, I'm going to be using some of my upper body. So for example, say when I'm doing dumbbell Romanian deadlifts, I'm going to be using my erector spinae to stabilize. I'm going to be using some biceps. Now granted, it is not a bicep dominant exercise, nor an erector spinae exercise. It's primarily for the posterior chain, the hamstrings, and the glutes. But I have still got to use those muscle groups to stabilize. So there is a little bit of carryover volume that goes into those muscle groups. And there's a lot of other exercises that you can think about that also have that carryover. So a lot of the time, people are doing too much volume on the smaller muscle groups or too much volume in general, and they're not understanding that there's a distribution of volume by doing certain movement patterns which are intended to target different muscles, but they're still counting towards the total volume on each muscle. Hence why I don't have a dedicated arm day. There's nothing wrong with it, I just don't think it's the most intelligent use of my time, especially when I could do a pull, a push, or a full upper body, distribute that throughout the week, hit the bigger muscle groups more frequently, and still get the volume in for the smaller ones too. Moving on to the pull day, again, I really want to work on my lower lat development. Thickness is always good, but lower lat development seems to be lacking. A big one that's lacking in a lot of physiques, and I would like a little bit more of it. It's one of the muscles that really gets neglected, or the part of the muscles, so I've incorporated quite a few movement patterns to offset and facilitate that. And again, because it's separated away from my leg day, it also helps me reduce and keep my back feeling fresh for that day. I never do more than 3 days in a row without a rest day, and it's not a bad idea. You can do that, but I wouldn't advise it. Rest is as important as the training days. It gives the body an opportunity to recover from a central nervous standpoint, but also a muscular standpoint. You can reduce fatigue, you can come in, you can train at a higher intensity, and you can distribute that volume across the week, which means on the consecutive weeks in your block or mesocycles, you can actually continue to accumulate volume and then progress. Friday is a leg day again. Now, I've sort of focused a few other things within this. I recently changed it up based on some of the clips you may see here. And again, I'm gonna go over that in the dedicated days. Once again, I've focused on some weak areas, some balances, muscular imbalances. So I've got some more unilateral exercises in the way of step-ups now. And I will break that down a little bit further. But again, I'm always biasing at this point, the hamstrings. I'm moving through some ranges of motion that I've not moved through before, or choosing some exercise variations where I feel there is weaknesses. So more free weight exercises that I've not done for a while, but also moving through greater ranges of motion and accumulating higher rep ranges for more fitness. I've put some functional exercises in here too, like sleds and whatnot. Then moving on to the final upper body day, it's very bodybuilding-esque on the upper body day. I've got a lot of exercises in this one for me. A lot of people have too many to be quite frank, I think you're better off keeping your exercise selection a little bit more conservative. If you have too many, you're keeping the body guessing, and you'd rather do less variations, mix them up more frequently, and put more volume, reps, and sets into them, rather than doing every exercise under the sun. Something else as well, when I design my days, I always make sure that there is a order of hierarchy within the movement pattern. So for example, on a leg day, we might have a squat pattern, a hip hinge, a single leg, and then isolations. On the push and pull, we're looking at vertical or horizontal push, and then vertical or horizontal pull. And we're sort of moving through that range, and then we're looking at isolation exercises, and then also as well, sometimes putting a unilateral variant in there too. So a lot of this is based around the science, which I have learned over studies, experience, but also from great resources, one of which is the Muscle and Strength Pyramids. On that final day, there's a little bit more arm volume to finish off. And again, I've gone and really embraced the inner bro, and I've really picked some isolation exercises that I love to focus on the more aesthetic side of my physique. So again, guys, disclaimer, this is what I'm doing bespoke to me. I'm more on the intermediate advanced stage, so I'm not just doing broad strokes anymore. I'm focusing more on the details, as well as still abiding by the fundamentals, because the basics are always the best. If you were someone who was doing a 3-day split, you might have a full body, a lower and an upper. If you had a 4-day split, you might have lower, upper, right? But one thing that I would advise is not to split your muscle groups up too much, especially in the early days, like the typical bro split where you're doing chest, arms, back. Nothing wrong with it. Does it work? Absolutely. Training muscle works. But if you want to be more intelligent and get a lot more return on your investment, you're better to adhere to the 2 to 3 day a week, or 2 to 3 muscle group a week per week frequency, where you're training every muscle at least 2 to 3 times a week and spreading that volume over whatever days you have to play with. So within there's a couple of golden nuggets, guys, that you can use to implement to improve your training and to get a bit of an insight into what I'm doing as well as a more physique-based athlete, because I am interested in aesthetics, also functional strength, but also longevity as well, guys. Hence why I promote being on the natural side of things. No disrespect to people who choose the other path, it's just not for me, and I wouldn't recommend it unless you want to take that to the next level and you understand and you are educated on exactly what the pros and cons are. Guys, thank you for watching the video. If you liked the video, like the video. Of course, once again, guys, subscribe. I really appreciate it. Hit that bell icon for weekly videos. I'll be back next week. And of course, in the meantime, stay fearless. And if you want to see something, remember to comment and I'll put it up there too. All right, guys, enjoy, and I'll chat to you soon.